With your permission, my master, I have encountered divergence in the Force.
A virgins, you say?
Located around a person?
A boy. His cells have the highest concentration of midichlorians I have seen in a life form. It is possible he was conceived by the midichlorians.
You refer to the prophecy of the one who will bring balance to the Force. You believe it's this boy?
I don't presume to.
But you do.
During its inception over 20 years ago, the prophecy of the Chosen One was rather unique and rather untold, with George Lucas stemming from the prequel era to portray the fall of Anakin Skywalker and tying it in with the original trilogy with the rise and redemption of Darth Vader. The prophecy of the Chosen One is somewhat of a mixed bag. Many interpretations still remain. Some believe it was to overthrow the Galactic Republic and reveal the stagnation in the Jedi, while others believe it was to bring balance to the Force. One of my favorite aspects about Star Wars is, as a matter of fact, their prophecies. The prophecy of the Sith Ari and the prophecy of Rakatan gods is but a few of them that I find rather interesting, with prophecies being defined as parables and tales that are predicted by various beings, more notably seers who believe to possess supernatural powers and phenomena that allow them to pierce the gaze of the future and allow them to perceive events that will happen in the future, or perhaps events that happened once in the past. A notable usage of this is the prophecy of the Chosen One. The prophecy of the Chosen One was an ancient Jedi legend that foretold the coming of an exceptionally powerful Force-sensitive being who would restore balance to the Force. The prophecy was one of hundreds of obscure legends maintained by the Jedi Order in its 25,000-year tenure. Though its origins remain very mystic, it was thought to have been created by the earliest Jedi philosophers during or before 11,958 BBY, after the creation of the Galactic Republic, but before the Jedi assumed an active role in it, with the prophecy of the Chosen One likely being conceived around the time of the Jedi Order, the order that predated the Jedi that were located on Tython. A quote from Grandmaster Yoda goes as follows concerning the Chosen One prophecy, of which Yoda recorded in the Great Holocron, a holocron that was said to be the largest and most knowledgeable holocron in Jedi history. Fully defeated by anyone, the dark side cannot be, but only by the Chosen One. And who might this Jedi be? No, I do not, but not yet born is he or she. This much sense I can. A vessel of pure force the Chosen One will be, more powerful than any Jedi in history. What Yoda predicted in this moment utilizing Farsight and entered into the Great Holocron was correct. Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, had the potential to become the most powerful Force user alive, and eventually attain the title of the Son of Suns and overthrow the Father of Shadows Nakash as depicted in the Supernatural Encounters novel. Anakin single-handedly had the power to rival some of the most powerful beings in all of fiction, including the likes of the Living Tribunal, one above all, Morgoth, Eru Iluvatar, and many, many more. So, my friends, join us as we dissect the prophecy, discovering what the prophecy actually was and what was inscribed in it, its interpretation by various Force users, and its history, from the Padawan of Promise to the balance and redemption of Darth Vader. Join us as we venture into the archives and uncover the ancient secrets long buried. Although the prophecy of the Chosen One notably takes place in the prequel era and the original trilogy era, with that being the location that Anakin Skywalker mainly features in, although his influence and legacy lasts for years after that, we are going to have to jump way into the future beyond the inception of the Chosen One prophecy and even the life of Skywalker himself, as we investigate Tinon Solasar, one of Luke Skywalker's first students and a Jedi historian and librarian in his new Jedi Praxium. Tinon Solasar was a notable Jedi Master in Luke's Jedi Order, a near-human being who wrote the following summary of the prophecy and its history in 40 ABY. The Great Holocron contains many references to the prophecy of the Chosen One. A Jedi will come to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force. Various records are unclear about the prophecy's exact origin, or whether above words were the actual prophecy or a concise interpretation of the prophecy, as it is very likely it was lost to history, especially during the era of the Galactic Empire, where one of Darth Vader and the Inquisitorius' main job alongside hunting down former Jedi and maintaining the Empire as enforcers were, destroying any form of Jedi lore that they could get their hands on, although a few pieces of Jedi lore, such as the Jedi Path Darth Sidious nabbed for himself, if only to mock his ancient enemies. Several accounts indicate that the prophecy was the subject of much debate as far back as 1200 years ago, but it may as a matter of fact be much older, even being more likely. It is my personal opinion that when the Thoyor pyramidal ships arrived and abducted various Force users from throughout the galaxy and dropped them on the world of Tython that would eventually become the Jedi homeworld, the Jedi Order, which predated the Jedi on the world, created the Chosen One prophecy, seeing as how being after being manifested in pure Force energy would eventually become. In my personal opinion, these Jedi created the Chosen One prophecy, and over the years it was altered and unified. However, the original tenets of the prophecy was always kept in check. By 70 BBY, Darth Tenebris, the Sith master of Darth Plagueis, had read part of the Journal of the Wills being supernatural entities and some of the most powerful beings in all of Star Wars, being literally the writers and authors akin to George Lucas, very similar to the presence in the DC universe, although even likely more powerful. In the Journal of the Wills, it contained the obscure legend of the Chosen One, a metaphorical savior prophesied to bring balance to the Force, temporal and eternal balance, and although this was misinterpreted by the Jedi and Tenebris alike. In 4 of the 11 possible translations of the journal, the phrase born of pure force was used to describe the Chosen One, and this was extremely accurate. Anakin Skywalker was conceived by the midichlorians in 41 BBY without a father. This was, ironically, in direct act to the acts of Darth Plagueis and Sidious, who had, around 9 years prior to the outbreak of the Naboo crisis, had utilized their dark powers to cause a dramatic shift in the Force that had shifted the dark side into a more prominent power hierarchy in the galaxy, the likes of which could be sensed by only the most notable and powerful of the Jedi High Council, such as Grandmaster Yoda and Mace Windu. In 19 BBY, Obi-Wan Kenobi noted personally, "I have scanned this prophecy. It says that only a chosen one will be born and bring balance to the Force. Nowhere does it say that he has to be a Jedi." As the Sith were believed to be destroyed and obliterated at the 7th Battle of Ruusan by the Thought Bomb, which, in all things considered, was actually correct. The Brotherhood of Darkness, led by Shir Khan and Lord Kopex and Kasim, was in all means annihilated during the Battle of Ruusan, and nearly every single Jedi, including the notable Lord Hoth, was annihilated as well, with a few Jedi, such as Jedi Lord Farfalla, being able to escape off-world back to Coruscant to preserve the Jedi Order. Many Jedi during this time and the High Republic era began to question whether the prophecy had any form of meaning in the modern era, since they perceived balances in the Force as ridding the life of the Sith and the dark side. But it would later come to pass that Anakin Skywalker, a young slave boy from Tatooine, would fulfill the prophecy of the Chosen One, after 23 years of conspiring under the servitude of Palpatine, to effectively eradicate the Jedi Order in 19 BBY as a part of the Great Jedi Purge, the second Jedi Purge after the one instigated by Darth Nihilus. Similar prophecies existed among other galactic cultures. The celestial group known as the Ones, with the Ones being regarded as being descendants or at least variations of the Celestials, for example, had such a prophecy, but theirs focused instead on a literal balance in the Force and required the Chosen One to succeed the Father, with the Father being the patriarch of the family of the Ones, once the latter had become too old to continue restraining the son and daughter, the embodiments of the light and dark sides of the Force. However, the Ones would survive after their physical death on Mortis due to the fact they continued to exist as spirits, and only their physical avatars were slain, respectively, as too much would either spell disastrous consequences for the galaxy at large. The Chosen One was forsaken by the Father to inherit his title as Patriarch of the family on Mortis, as only the Chosen One had the natural potential in order to contend with the Father and bring the son and daughter to their knees, which we foresaw and see in the Season 3, Episode 16 episode of the Clone Wars Overlords, where we see Anakin participating in a ritual by the Father and dominating the son and daughter when the lives of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ahsoka Tano escaped. However, the Father does explain that this can only be achieved on Mortis due to Mortis being a literal nexus of the Force. Another cult of the darkness, the Hind Snake cult, a separate dark-side cult faction from the Order of the Sith Lords, predicted on unrestrained chaos and anarchy, featuring a similar interpretation of the prophecy to that of the Jedi Order. However, in their case uniquely, the prophecy entailed a black armored figure proceeding to lead the Hind Snake's cult army to bring chaos to the galaxy, and that figure would decapitate 3 snakes, with 2 of them dying while the third, embodying and personifying chaos, would be immortal, very similar to the Hydra from Greek mythology. The High Snake cult believed that the Imperial emissary Darth Vader to be the armored figure of legend, and considered both the Jedi and the Empire to be the two snakes that would die. However, this prophecy in the end proved false when Vader went to the High Snake cult and massacred the entire Force sect. In the waning days of the stagnating, corrupt, and disparate Jedi Order and Galactic Republic, Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn, after attempting to extrovert Padme Amidala and Queen Amidala from the planet of Naboo that was currently under Trade Federation occupation, discovered a young slave boy Anakin Skywalker on the outer rim desert world of Tatooine. Jinn believed that the boy could be the chosen one himself due to his extraordinary natural affinity for the Force, such as pod racing. This was brought on by his unusually high midichlorian count of over 20,000 in each cell of his body, and his apparent virgin birth, as noted by Shmi Skywalker. This, as a matter of fact, was incurred by Darth Plagueis and Darth Sidious, who created Skywalker unintentionally when they attempted to coerce the Force into the dark side. Jinn testified before the various members of the Jedi High Council in the Temple's High Council chamber upon returning to Coruscant with Anakin, that the events surrounding the startling discovery of this remarkable boy constituted the title of a virgin in the Force. Darth Plagueis of the Sith, who is going to be killed any day now, also discovered the boy's existence, and was disturbed that in his grand experiment he inadvertently and indirectly created the very thing that was prophesied to destroy the Sith, and therefore himself. Despite Qui-Gon's belief the boy's true purpose in the galaxy, the Jedi High Council was not entirely convinced, having long lost their way. They forbade Qui-Gon from training Anakin. However, following Jinn's death to the enigmatic Sith apprentice Darth Maul in Naboo, and Darth Maul's subsequent assumed death, his former Padawan, now Jedi Knight Obi-Wan Kenobi, was determined to uphold Jinn's legacy, and his dying wish took Anakin as his new apprentice with the Council's final blessing. Although Yoda was incredibly trepidatious and anxious about training Anakin, sensing a great amount of fear and turmoil in the young boy. The fact that the Sith Lord slew Qui-Gon Jinn may have indicated to the Council that, with the Sith return, the prophecy still had the potential to be fulfilled. The boy, arriving at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, having already been chosen by a Jedi Knight, considered himself extremely lucky, and rightfully so, for to have instantly attained that Padawan distinction that was for any Jedi initiate under normal circumstances, exceptionally hard won indeed, and was completely unheard of. And as Anakin progressed in his training at the temple, and the Council witnessed the startling aptitudes and powers that seemed resident in the boy, even the wisest among them could not discount that the prophecy might somehow find fruition in this remarkable Jedi stripling and aspiring knight. For one thing was blindingly, universally apparent. All knew, including Anakin, that he was special and highly gifted. In many ways, he was the Star Wars version of high functioning. Indeed, not in living memory, not even among the oldest Jedi Masters, including Kinaha, who was over 3,000 years old, could they remember a Padawan who was as gifted as Anakin Skywalker. The boy, in his temple training, could have easily advanced in half the time it had taken him, but the Masters could not specially alter his curriculum or overly show favoritism. But he'd been, from the beginning, far beyond his classmates in lightsaber skills and his proficiency with the Force. Yet, in quiet observation and assessment of Grandmaster Yoda, perhaps the wisest among the Jedi living sages, despite the boy's inconstitutable gifts in matters of heart and mind, Anakin still had much to learn. His future was complex, difficult to discern, and ever clouded in Yoda's mind, as did the growing influence in the dark side. Skywalker's own master knew that he must watch his Padawan's progress cautiously and consistently, with a loving and most careful eye, only too aware that Anakin's independent spirit would, as it had become both for Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn themselves, serve him well as a Jedi Knight in the years to come. But the spirit needed to be rigorously tempered with loyalty and self-sacrifice to do the greater good. The many and ever-present cautious notwithstanding, Obi-Wan was convinced in his heart. In the spirit of his own master Qui-Gon Jinn, no one understands his brilliant, open-hearted, complex Padawan like he did, and he was determined to uphold the legacy Qui-Gon upheld, with his dying wish for this young prodigy in the Force to become a Jedi, and to restore balance, which eventually would come to fruition. There were various forceful indications very early on in his training that Anakin harbored a unique and unparalleled destiny. For example, when the senior Jedi High Council member known as Mace Windu confronted the 12-year-old Padawan 3 years after being indoctrinated into the Jedi Code, and his master regarding Anakin's destructive, somewhat rebellious and maverick-like behavior, the boy disclosed that he simply sought peace from his fears of contemplation, meditation, as well as reoccurring dreams and nightmares, wherein he was required to look inward for he didn't like what he saw. There he saw too much, I burn like a sun inside. Windu found that comment quite remarkable, for it testified of a powerful conduit through which the Force might activate itself and might work. Similarly, the High Council member Ki-Adi-Mundi, who was venerated towards the end of the Clone Wars as being perhaps as powerful as Mace Windu and Yoda, likewise perceived the boy and saw a beacon of absolute fountain and power, very similar to Caleb, the child of the light, who many believed was the offspring of a 1,000-year-old Jedi prophecy and had an infinite connection to the Force. This extraordinary brightness, this overwhelming power within Anakin, that quite literally battled the use of the spheres, but with also bespoke a very special and unique destiny, was again alluded to by Anakin as he and his master departed for one of their first personal assignments together to the living, sentient offspring of the Yuzong Vong world, Zanama Sakot. Anakin again confessed before Obi-Wan that he didn't meditate very often because, quote, I get to a certain point and I just overload. It's like I'm plugging into a supernova. Sometimes something goes bluey in me. I don't like it. And when it came to his dreams, these occurred, of course, in Anakin's sleep, such as the boy dreaded sleep. It seemed in his dreams that something inside was testing him, something very strong, and it did not care whether it was loved or feared.
And so, they've finally given you an assignment. Your patience has paid off.
Your guidance more than my patience.
You don't need guidance, Anakin. In time, you will learn to trust your feelings. Then you will be invincible. I have said it many times. You are the most gifted Jedi I have ever met.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
I see you becoming the greatest of all Jedi, Anakin. Even more powerful than Master Yoda.
Although Anakin's powers grew astronomically throughout his tutelage, as the years passed, often even astonishing even Obi-Wan, his own master who knew him better than anyone, and by the age of 14, he had already proven himself on several important missions throughout his tenure as a Jedi Padawan apprentice. He began a slow slide, however, towards the seductive influence of the dark side of the Force, largely in part due to the increasing influence and motivation of Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, someone Anakin thought of as a sympathetic and confident mentor, viewing him more of as a uncle figure if Obi-Wan Kenobi was a father figure. Omnipresent in the boy's mind were also various dark voices and premonitions he was desperate to stop. The voices that doubted he'd ever be a great Jedi Knight, the voices that told him he'd abandoned his mother and left her to die. And so, to crowd them out of his mind, even if only temporarily, Anakin turned to various other activities to occupy his thinking as well as hobbies, to stimulate his interest and activate his mind and to avoid boredom, such as tinkering with droids and tech devices, rekindling his love for machines as well as technology. And while young Skywalker was liked by other Temple students, he was not loved. He possessed no close friends due to the fact no one else was in an intellectual or force power league like him. Something his master lamented constantly, and he grieved for Anakin's loneliness, something that I will be exploring in an upcoming video. Perhaps the closest Anakin ever came to an intimate friendship was the relationships he had with True Veld and Dartel Tunis, but Anakin was responsible for the loss of both, True via betrayal and Dara to death, where he allowed his own pride and jealousy to destroy those friendships unintentionally. Beyond these inner demons swirling within the mind and fractured psyche of Anakin Skywalker, of course, Anakin was also feeling the astronomical weight on him due to the prophecy of the Chosen One. Even so, with respect to the Jedi High Council, despite these complexating factors that clouded a clear vision of Anakin's future, or perhaps because of them, many of its members were still dubious that Anakin was truly the Chosen One, and Yoda himself, perhaps the wisest and most powerful of all the Jedi, even mused that the prophecy could have been misread, and that Anakin may not have been the one destined to bring balance to the Force. And Yoda was in one way correct. The prophecy had been misread, but Anakin would bring balance, but balance to the Sith. Although there was a brief time and intense aspiration where Anakin considered himself, in his young pride, to be first in the Force, and felt its growing arrogance, that his master of the Jedi Council were considerably holding him back from reaching his full potential due to their various training doctrine and the Jedi Code itself. Skywalker himself ultimately grew to disbelieve that he was the Chosen One, and dismissed the prophecy as a myth, due perhaps to his own formidable fears of failing it. This assumption became a conviction when Skywalker indeed fell to the dark side, and, as Darth Vader, was majorly responsible for all the Jedi that died in the Jedi Temple, alongside some of the 501st clone troopers. However, most of these Jedi that he would kill himself. Dark premonitions of Anakin losing to the dark side became to come with Kenobi with more frequency and urgency, as well as force after the beginning of the Clone Wars, when the galaxy fractured and the Republic threatened to split apart, with the tragedy that was the Battle of Geonosis. The encroaching presence of the dark side had draped like a dark curtain over the Jedi Temple, seeping like poison into the veins of the Force. The vision of the Masters was clouded more than ever, even the far sight of Yoda. Kenobi felt a great distance had developed between him and his Padawan, from even before Geonosis, since the time Anakin had ventured to Tatooine and reported the death of his mother and slaughtered the Tusken tribe that had killed her. Something had profoundly changed in Anakin during the time they were apart. Before being reunited in the Petranaki arena on Geonosis for public execution in the presence of Count Dooku, Viceroy Gunray, and Poggle the Lesser, that made Obi-Wan feel uneasy, made him question if his love for his master Qui-Gon had blinded him to Anakin's various faults for far too long. Since Tatooine, not only had Anakin grown harder and more secretive, but he also lost his various boyishness. He was clearly a man now, but he was also restless, impatient, and he no longer felt the same sense of peace from the temple, beginning especially after the Dark Reaper crisis in 22 BBY. Anakin sometimes shot Kenobi looks and words laced with contempt and scorn. Arrogance and flashes of jealousy and fury betrayed his changed demeanor, and the sense of dull dread that Kenobi now felt about his apprentice had the power to wake him from a deep sleep, but it also instilled within him a conviction that it was too late to do anything about it. Had Kenobi, in his teaching of his Padawan over the years, overlooked what he should not have overlooked? Had he failed both Anakin and his master Qui-Gon at the same time? While an exemplary teacher, though he deeply cared for Anakin, Kenobi, in retrospective mediation, knew and regretted that he had missed many opportunities to love, encourage, and communicate effectively with his prodigious, complex Padawan, this chosen one. But indeed, his very attachment, as Yoda pointed out to Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Temple's Halls of Healing following the events of Geonosis, attachment to Anakin, attachment to Qui-Gon, was a fault that Kenobi shared with Skywalker, and it was at the root of Anakin's complicated relationship with the mysterious prophecy. It had been in large part of the problem from the beginning, as revealed to recovering Obi-Wan for the first time in 22 BBY. Yoda's concern over the perceived attachments was the very reason why the Grand Master was so reluctant in the first place for Skywalker to become Kenobi's apprentice after the death of Qui-Gon, believing that Anakin's attachment to his mother would dilute his connection to the Force if he was the chosen one, as well as cause problems down the line, which eventually Yoda would be proven correct at, as it was largely due to his mother being abducted and eventually slaughtered through rigorous torture by the Tusken camp, that Anakin first embraced the dark side, although he embraced it partially before. The event on Tatooine was primarily the moment where he became fully submerged, and he was already halfway gone. All Palpatine did from there on then was encourage and push Anakin to his grave. During the Clone Wars, although there were multiple occasions where Anakin's descent into the dark side was evident, in my personal opinion, to this day, one of my favorite arcs in the entire Clone Wars is the arc on Mortis, where Anakin was revealed finally as confirmation to be the prophesied chosen one, where the Jedi Council received a 2,000-year-old distress signal from the Cavalarium system. Skywalker, along with Kenobi and Tano, were sent to investigate. Fearing a separatist trap, they were supposed to meet up with Captain Rex and an armored cruiser at the coordinates. Though they both reached the location, neither Skywalker nor Rex could see each other. All of a sudden, a large crystal-shaped monolith appeared and pulled the Jedi ship towards itself. When the crew passed out and when they regained consciousness, they found themselves on a strange world that was radiant with pure Force energy. Skywalker was then approached by the ethereal embodiment of the light side known as the Daughter, who asked if he was the one, then told them to follow her. On the way, a rock slide separated Kenobi and Tano from the Daughter and Skywalker. Despite the Daughter's warning to wait there, Skywalker attempted to follow her. However, he lost her and had to find shelter in a cave from a storm before he spotted a monastery's beacon. As soon as the storms let up, Skywalker hastened to the monastery where he met the father, the patriarch of the family of the Mortis gods, who gave him shelter for the night. Later, Skywalker was visited by an apparition of his mother. Skywalker, knowing that she was dead, could not believe that it was her. She told Anakin that she knew that he defined his guilt by what he had done, massacring the Tusken Raiders, and his secret marriage to Padme Amidala following the Geonosis crisis. When Skywalker attempted to comfort her, she changed into a gargoyle monster, revealing that she was actually the sun, the personification and therefore will of the dark side. Skywalker confronted the father, pointing a lightsaber at him under the assumption that he was a Sith Lord. The father replied to this by saying that he was neither Sith nor Jedi, and that he was much more. He told his sister that he and his children were a species of Force wielders, being so extremely strong in the ways of the Force, they could not dwell in the material world anymore, due to the fact that the son and daughter's frequent argument would rend the entire universe itself. As a result, they had retreated to this planet to contain their power by attaining balance within and cutting off any influences from the outside world, except for in 24,000 BBY, where they brought a dark Jedi to their world briefly. Following this, the father inquired to Skywalker about the Chosen One myth, which Skywalker had revealed to be merely a myth and legend. After hearing Skywalker's reply, the father gave him an offer. If Skywalker would pass a test, he and his friends were free to leave. The following morning, he had to face an impossible choice. The son and daughter had kidnapped both Tano and Kenobi as they went looking for him, and Skywalker had to choose which one to save. Kenobi reminded him that the planet was actually the Force itself, and Skywalker, harnessing the inner energies of Mortis, was then able to tame both of the children, who changed back into their humanoid form. The old man then informed Skywalker that he had passed the test, and he still had to learn about the true nature within himself and his true power within the Force. He then revealed that he had been dying slowly over the last millennia, and asked Skywalker to take his place as the balancing element between his children, or otherwise endanger the galaxy with his selfishness if he left. Skywalker eventually chose to leave, although he was strangely hesitant to do so. However, before the Jedi ship could exit the Mystical Plane's atmosphere, the son abducted Tano, correctly assuming that the Jedi would not leave it behind. After a lengthy pursuit, Skywalker lost track of the sun and almost crashed into a gigantic tower. After a none-too-elegant landing, Skywalker decided to go and rescue his Padawan, despite Kenobi's concern about disturbing the balance in the Force as well as in their own universe as well. When Skywalker finally managed to climb the guard of the tower, he found Tano, brainwashed by the sun's influence, her eyes bearing yellow hue of the dark side's taint. There she told him the sun's message. If Skywalker refused to join him, he would kill Tano. If Skywalker tried to stop the sun, he would be forced to kill the girl himself. The two then engaged in formal combat, with Skywalker continuously retreating, unwilling to hurt his student due to his unyielding loyalty. Soon, Kenobi arrived to join forces with his former Padawan, while the son and daughter started their own combat inside the tower's throne room, dueling as their father rested. When it became evidently obvious that the conflict could not go any further without injury, Kenobi suggested killing the son with a dagger of Mortis in order to cut Tano free of his control. However, before they could successfully act on this plan, the father arrived and interrupted both fights. However, he had grown too weak due to the son previously attacking him to fend off the son's force lightning. Kenobi, in hopes of defeating the son, threw the dagger to Skywalker. However, Tano, exploiting her greater agility, was quicker to catch it and took it over to the son, who then seemingly killed her with a touch to the forehead, and then attempted to murder his father with the dagger. To his great dismay, the sister took the blow, and he fled, raging. Skywalker asked the father to help Tano, but he answered that without light there was no hope for her either. Skywalker then replied, crying that there was always hope. Hearing his pain, the daughter asked the help of her father to give the remaining life energy swirling within her to Tano. Not wishing to deny the dying wish of his child, the father showed Skywalker how to transfer the daughter's life into his Padawan, and after a few frightening seconds where Skywalker was the conduit for the light side, the father showed Skywalker how to transfer the daughter's life into his Padawan, and the glowing daughter's body faded away. Tano came back to life, and seeing Tano alive, Skywalker knelt to his Padawan and hugged her. He immediately asked her if she was okay, but she seemed to forget what happened. After this, the father ordered the Jedi to leave immediately, for the son would not be able to leave Mortis with their ship. We all know how the rest of this arc goes. The father eventually sacrifices himself and kills himself with the dagger of Mortis, or at least killing his astral form, although his spirit lived on due to him being an ancient member and leader of the Celestial Race, a species of godlike force users that I explore on my Discord server. But there is one more interesting thing I'd like to note. Eventually, Anakin attempted to confront and kill the son in the Wellspring of Darkness. In this Wellspring of Darkness, Skywalker received a horrific vision of his future, and although there are so many visions in this I can't barely explain it in one video and keep it under half an hour, let's roll the clip.
I have had enough of your trickery.
But you'll like this one, I promise. What if I could show you the future?
No! Stop it!
Know yourself.
Know what you will become.
Despite having his memory wiped of these eventual actions he would one day commit, Anakin still brought about the destruction of the Jedi and aided in no small part to the execution of Clone Contingency Command 66 at the end of the Clone Wars, successfully plunging the galaxy into darkness. With the Dark Lords of the Sith in control, Obi-Wan Kenobi, during his confrontation with Vader on the volcanic world of Mustafar, stated that he truly believed that Anakin was indeed the Chosen One, but that his destiny had been altered, twisted, malformed, and the prophecy left unfulfilled. Yoda and Obi-Wan then looked towards the offspring of Anakin to one day overthrow the Sith and aspire to the prophecy their father was meant to complete, hoping that they would fulfill the prophecy instead, believing that Anakin was now irredeemable, although Obi-Wan still held out some hope for his former friend. It transpired, however, that the prophecy was still to be fulfilled, in an unforeseen fashion. Decades later, in 4 ABY above the forest moon of Endor, Vader stood to witness a confrontation between his master, the Dark Lord of the Sith Emperor Sheev Palpatine, and Vader's own son, Luke Skywalker. And after Luke Skywalker successfully defeated the older and slower Vader, Palpatine began to torture the helpless Jedi with Force lightning, accelerating the potency to perceive Luke's skull as his lightning flashed and writhed around his body. Anakin Skywalker was reborn as the flame of his consciousness lit inside him, burning away the dragon that was Vader, turning against his Sith Master in a violent attempt to save Luke's life. It was this conscious choice to rid the galaxy of the last of the Lords of the Sith that fulfilled the prophecy of the Chosen One, and brought balance to the Force. Anakin killed Sidious, but eventually at the cost of his own life, with him destroying the Sith leadership, his master, and himself. Having finally redeemed himself by embracing the light side of the Force once again, Anakin Skywalker passed on to become a Force spirit, leaving his son Luke to promulgate the teachings of the Jedi Order, to maintain and preserve the balance that he had restored. In the end, his mentor Obi-Wan Kenobi accepted Anakin as the Chosen One of prophecy, and agreed to teach him how to become one with the Force once and for all.
Now, young Skywalker, you will die.
So, my friend, what did you think of this video? Do you think that this was a comprehensive outlook on the prophecy of the Chosen One, its history, inception, and eventually fulfillment by the fallen Chosen One, now reborn Anakin Skywalker? Leave your suggestions down in the comments below. What would you like me to make a lore video on next? I'm happy to do other prophecies, such as the prophecy of the Rakatan Mother, or a prophecy like the Sith Ari, which is a Sith anecdote and analogue of the Chosen One prophecy of the Jedi. My friends, I'll see you in the next video. Be sure to put suggestions down in the comments. And remember, the Force will be with you. And if you want to and have Discord, join my Discord server, which the link will be in the description, or on my community page.